Hi Bike Gang, so I'm just doing this quick video about my things that I look for when I'm buying a vintage bicycle. So my number one step is, first step, not number one, but kind of essential, is to figure out what type of bike you like. Figure out what is going to suit you best. You're not going to want a fucking cruiser if you're going long distances. So just really take into consideration what you do day to day, because that is going to make you want to ride your bike more often. Two is a very important one. Figure out what size frame you are. So I am stupid because I am 5'4", but I ride a 56 centimeter bike frame, which is ridiculous, but I love it, so I just do that, and that's how I roll. But you should definitely go online, figure out what size frame fits your height, but also go around and ride a few bikes, just at like a bike store. Just say you're taking it for a test drive and see what size fits you best. 3. Okay, so when buying a vintage bike, you need to consider how much time you're willing to put back in that bike. If you're spending $500 on a bike and you've never rode a bike before and it's secondhand and rusty, you are not going to want to do it up unless you're a weirdo like me. So consider how much time you're willing to put in, and that, I'm sure, is on a sliding scale to how much you've paid for it. Because if you paid a lot of money, you're like, why should I spend more money on new wheels, new headset? So really focus on how much time you're willing to put into this bike. 4.4 that I always think of is where to look. So A, ask your friends if they have any bikes laying in an old shed. I've unearthed a few gems that way. Craigslist. If you're in America, Craigslist. Do it. Awesome. You have to look every day, and it's going to be a religion for you by the end, checking the Craigslist for new frames that come up. But Craigslist, I get such good stuff. Bike Exchange is another good site. Quite often you exchange bikes for free, or people are giving away bikes there, which is always nice. I've never used it, but lots of people I know have, so they like that. If you're in Australia, Gumtree. Gumtree is a great site. Also in the UK, I used to get all my bikes off Gumtree while I was in the UK as well. So keep an eye out in those places. 5 is important. Don't be a dick. If the bike seems stolen, do not buy the bike. It is stolen. Hey little man roaming the street with bolt cutters around your neck and a brand new bike that you're wheeling down. You ask me if I want to buy it? No, it's stolen. 6. So once you've found the bike you love, you don't just say, I'll buy it. You go and inspect it. You wouldn't go and buy a car without looking at it. So you go and you check out the frame. Basically, depending on how much time and money you're willing to put into something, if the frame is good, so that's like the metal bit. This is the frame, this main metal bit, without moving components. If the frame is good, you can realistically fix it up. It can take time, but as long as the frame is good, that is what you need. If there is bending in the main frame on a steel bike, sometimes you can bend that out. And also in a steel set of forks. Forks are these things that go over your wheel. Steel can sometimes be bent out, but it generally means the bike's been in a big accident. I tend to not buy bikes with a damaged frame. And steel you can bend out. Aluminium, titanium, and carbon can't be rebent out of shape. So if it's one of those, do not bother if it is bent at all. Check for rust. So this bike has a bit of rust just here that is about the size of my fingernail, my pinky fingernail. That is not going to be a big concern. But if there is rust that's extensive, it means it's not structurally sound. Leave it. 7. Lots of the time, if you check the components and you check the brand of the bike, if they have good brands, you're set. And quite often, the components, if they're branded really nice, they could be worth more than the actual frame. So do research the brands that are on your bike. It will give you a lot of insight into how good this bike is and how much you should be paying. 8. So you like this bike, you go and have a look at it and the frame is good, and the seller is saying it's been serviced. Ask them what they've actually done to the bike. It being serviced, it might mean that they've taken off certain components of the bike which were good, but also they might have just polished up the bike and pumped the tyres and called it a service. It needs to be quite extensive what they do, and everything from this point in my list are things that can be fixed and should have been fixed in the service, or you can go and get serviced, or you can do it yourself, which is what I'm going to be doing over the following weeks with my Centurion. 9. Ride the bike. Ride the bike, and if you have a geared bike, run through the gears. So make sure you go from top gear to low gear and have it run through the chain at the back. So make sure you go through all the gears, see how well it's shifting up and down. These are things that can be fixed with adjustments of the derailleur. This is fine, but you should be paying less if this isn't working. And the brake and gear cables, are they rusted? How does the housing look? This is the housing where your cables run through. How does that look? Does that look old? Does that look crappy? These are things that can easily be changed, but it's just a good indicator of how well a bike was looked after, for one thing, but also it will affect your gears, so it's something that you will need to replace, so that should go into account when you're buying a bike. 10, I think I'm 10, I've lost count, but 10, I'll just say it. Lift up the bike and spin the wheel. Spinning the wheel, it shouldn't look like it's going from side to side. Look at how it's running next to the 2 brake pads on either side. If it's going in and out and going closer and further away from the brake pads, that means that the wheel is not true, it's not straight. That means if it's a serious kick as well, look up and down. So it could be going up and down like that. That means that it's been an accident and it will need to be trued, because that will not give you a good ride. So make sure that you look at that, because if it's too badly bent or the rim is bent, it means that you just cannot, it means that you mightn't be able to fix it, and you might need new wheels, which can cost a lot of money. So tyres are the easiest thing to replace, so please don't let this freak you out if they're not good, but check for do they look like they're crumbling? Check how good the tread is on it, like is the pattern still on it nicely? Is it starting to crumble at the sides? Are you seeing any metal? Any metal means, or any extra colour coming through the middle, that means that it's time to replace them. I think I'm up to 11. Check the brake pads and how reactive the brakes are. So give the brakes a squeeze while you're riding. Check the brake pads to see if they're worn down. You shouldn't see any metal through them. They should still have a bit of patterning on them, or like the kind of pattern they usually are quite bumped. Those can be replaced easily. But if you're having problems with the brakes, really check it just to make sure. You don't want to ride away and have an accident. 12. Bearings. Bearings are the tiny little balls that make everything run smoothly. When it turns and it moves, anything part on the bike that moves basically will have a bearing involved. So you want to kind of go through the bottom brackets where your cranks are and everything. Your headset, so up here on the headset, down there on the cranks where you pedal. In the wheel, when you're turning it, you should check for this as well. If there's a grinding noise or feel, it could mean the ball bearings have stopped being circles and they've worn away and they're kind of turning into squares, which gives it a grindy feel. In a service, those should be changed. That's it. That was my guide to buying a vintage frame. I think I was meant to go for like 2 seconds and it's gone for so long. So sorry about that. I'm going to include links below to some guides on how to find a vintage frame. Yeah, subscribe to my channel, be part of the gang, and I will see you guys next week when I'm thinking I'm going to start doing up my Centurion piece by piece. Oh, yeah. What an undertaking.